neighbors. I wanted to sit out here at this nice beautiful pond in the evening here in Scott County, Mississippi, where I'm working for a few weeks. And I wanted to teach y'all how to play this great old tune called Stagolee. It's also called Stagolee, Stagger Lee, Stagger Lee, or sometimes Stagolee and Billy. So before we get into how you play this thing, I'll direct you to this link up here. If you want the tab for this and every other song that you see me teaching, you'll click on this link up here. It'll take you to patreon.com/CliftonHicks for a very modest monthly contribution. You get access to this tune, the tab for this, everything I teach there, and a lot of other stuff that I post. A lot of the antique banjos that you see me feature on this channel, I take detailed, like nice photos of, and all kinds of historical info about those banjos you'll find there. You'll also get access to our top secret members only internet groups where we talk about all kind of stuff. I'm pleased to report that we actually know a lot of the history behind this song. So the title is, there's a lot of different titles, like I mentioned, Stagger Lee, Stagolee, Stagolee. It's actually about a guy whose name was Lee Shelton, and he was a pimp in St. Louis, Missouri in the 1890s and the early 1900s. And he had a couple of nicknames, it seems. One of those was Stag, and the other one was Stack. And who's to say how he got these nicknames, but there's, you know, Stag. When a guy is known for going stag, that means he's typically alone, doesn't have a girlfriend or a wife, so Stag Lee. And then also Stag Lee. We don't really know where that comes from, but there was a steamboat that operated in the area out of Memphis, but it was up and down the river, called the Stag Lee. So, and that steamboat was known for having a lot of prostitutes on board. So he seems to have had both of those nicknames. Who's to say where that actually came from? But the incident in question took place on Christmas Eve, and I believe it was 1895. So Stag and an associate of his, I think they were friends, they knew each other, a guy named Billy Lyons. They were together in a bar in St. Louis, and at some point in the evening they got into an altercation. We don't know the details, but Bill took Stag's hat, and it was a brand new Stetson hat apparently, which is mentioned in the song, and apparently Stag on the spot took out his gun, shot and killed Billy, and took his hat back. So he did get charged and thrown in prison for that murder, but he wasn't sentenced to death. He was never executed. He actually was paroled, like I want to say 8 or 10 years after he was locked up for that murder. Stag was paroled, but he wound up back in prison just a few years later. He seems to have got mixed up in a robbery, so he was a pretty rough guy. And then that second time in prison, he died in prison, apparently from natural causes. First things first, I'll give you my exact tuning. The relative tuning is what's called double C or one finger C, gCGCD. My exact tuning, I'll turn on this electrical tuner here. My exact tuning is F, A sharp, F, A sharp, C. So that's my exact tuning. If you want to play along exactly where I'm at, you can tune your banjo to gCGCD, and that's the standard modern pitch for double C. You can play along too. Okay, the first thing we do, really, the whole thing is going to be, you got a C chord, which is where you just hold the first string at the 2nd fret. Then you got an F chord, which is where you hold the 3rd string at the 2nd fret and the 1st string at the 3rd. That's really about it. And then there's kind of a bass run. And that's about all there is to it. So the first thing you do is so Stagolee and Billy. What I do there is I play the 3rd string open, and then I note it on the 2nd fret. Then I play the 2nd string open. So that gives you Stagolee. And then to get and Billy, I slide up on the 3rd string from the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. And Bill and Billy. I'm sorry. And Billy go into that full F chord shape. So Stagolee and Billy. And then I like to do what's called a little double note. You just pull off and note down real hard again on that third string at the second fret. They went, and then out of two strikes on the second string open. Then I do a pluck on the third string at the second fret. Then I do a hard choke on that bass string at the second fret. Then I play the bass string open. They went out a-gambling. Then you're going to run up on the bass string from the second fret to the fourth fret to the fifth fret. Then back to that F chord. Back to the C chord. And that was the same thing we did before, so most of that's all in the second fret. Then you get where it talks about listen all you people. What I do there to get that is I slide twice on the second fret, on the second string from the first fret to the second fret. Listen all you people. So all I did there was I choked the third string at the second fret and then I hit it open. Listen all you people. And then what I'll do is that double shuffle lick. If you want to learn more about the double shuffle lick, you type in Clifton Hicks double shuffle. Stag was a real bad man. So all I did there was I double shuffle. So I go, listen all you people. Then I draw out that double shuffle. Stag was a real, and then I go to the bass string. Bad man. Listen all you people. Stag was a real bad man. Then you get the bass run. If you've been listening to me for any period of time, you'll tell that this is the same melody that I play for Black Bottom Blues that I use for Stagolee, and it's the same bass run. Do dib a did it do dib dee do dib dib a dib do do dib a dib do. So I'll leave that to the tab. I don't really want to vocalize all that. You know, click on this link up here, join the Patreon group, get the tab. The tab will show you exactly how to play all this stuff. I know I'm hard to follow along to, but the way that I was taught this stuff, it was really just watching older guys play and then having to copy it later, figure out how to play it later. And maybe they told me a couple things here and there, so. That's your bass run. And that's pretty much the whole song. There's another part where Stag actually shoots Billy. I just kind of pick the banjo up and I flick it. So Stagolee shot Billy. He shot him with his 44. That's pretty self-explanatory. You can come up with your own way to do that. And the only other sort of variation is when I talk about, and the women started crying because they seen he had his gun in his hand. So, and the women started crying because they seen he had his gun in his hand. So you'll notice that's a kind of a different time signature. You just got to figure out your own stuff. My lyrics are borrowed from a bunch of different people. The first time I ever heard this song was on a recording of John Hurt, Mississippi John Hurt. Here we are in Mississippi. And so I borrowed some of my verses from John Hurt. And then the first time I ever saw anybody play it on the banjo was George Gibson at his house in Kentucky, after I was out of the Army, I want to say. And so early 2000s. And George I never saw George play Stagolee. He played Black Bottom Blues, and then he just told me, he said, you can play it, Stagolee is the same. You just play the verses to that song. So pretty much all my lyrics come from Mississippi John Hurt, and the technical banjo stuff, I kind of picked up a lot of that from George. Okay, everybody, that's all I wanted to show you on this. I'd sure appreciate it if you follow this link. Check us out at patreon.com/CliftonHicks. If you don't like Patreon, we're also on Subscribestar. So type in subscribestar.com, and you can find my name. If you don't like any of that, you can go directly to the Banjo Heritage website, and you can just pay me directly for lessons. That's banjoheritage.com. Okay, everybody, thanks for looking. Stagolee shot Billy. He shot him with his 44. Billy fell back from the table, crying, "Stag, don't shoot me no more." Listen, all you people, Stag was